Hi, my name is Joel Engelbert. This is Flipping Out with Friends. And this is on the Flipping Out YouTube channel. Appreciate everybody that clicked on the video. And today should be a great time. Today's going to be a good time. We are catching up with the one, the only Keith Elwin. Keith, thanks so much for being willing to do something like that. This is a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, I had a great time last time we chatted, even though I was very sick.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. No, last time we did and there is a video. It's an audio format, but it's out there. And we kind of did a Godzilla deep dive. At the time, I don't remember exactly where the code was, but it was really far along. But you've added a bunch of stuff since then, and I know we really did a good job of kind of going left to right, breaking down the shots, kind of what were your thoughts on, all that stuff. So I would encourage, if anybody's watching this and hadn't heard that, check that out. It's on the Pinball Network under a podcast. And maybe we can throw a link in the description and all that. But physically, I think we've addressed the game rather well. But since the last time we talked, and yes, I wore my Godzilla hoodie because I never cared about this IP at all. And then I got this game and my kids love it. My brothers and I don't know. It's like I've missed out on how great this giant destructive lizard really is. But
Yeah, it's crazy because as a kid, I remember watching these. I was like, "Oh yeah, this is pretty cool." And then after I got the license, I started, going through the movies, and I was like, yeah, these kind of are geared towards children, aren't they? It's like, but they're awesome. They're not supposed to be taken seriously, and I always thought, I'm always a fan of huge campy games, and I was like, that's why I wanted to do it. And I was just like, this is gonna have a ton of fun with this.
Oh yeah,
and the licensor was just like, yeah, go nuts. So that is very helpful when designing a game. When the licensor can get behind everything you're doing. So it was fun.
Yeah, and I think you clearly did that. You clearly leaned into the campiness. I mean, the art is awesome, the audio is awesome, the layout's awesome. I mean, it's got a whole lot going for it. And maybe we can go down that route. I like straight down the middle. They just put out a video of what they feel are the top 10 games of all time. Or you look at Pinside, like Godzilla's been dominating right there in the number one spot for quite a long time now. I don't know, from your perspective, what do you feel like? Why do you think this game is liked so much by so many people? Because that type of stuff, like Pinside, it has the whole range of people that kind of fill out that, from novice players to high end tournament players. I don't know, like, what do you feel the team accomplished so well that makes Godzilla so well liked?
Sometimes I just have to shut off my competitive brain and watch, my girlfriend, my brother, people who aren't serious competitive players, and watch how they play and watch how they approach a game. So when I'm watching this, or if I go to Logan Arcade and I watch people play, if you don't hook them early, you're never going to hook them. So I kind of, take lessons learned from Jurassic Park and Avengers. And I was like, I'm going to throw out everything my brain is telling me to do and do something that the everyman will appreciate. It was like, hey, I don't want to slog through, 10 modes to get to the mini wizard mode. And it's just like, so I put everything, depending on the path, you should have a clear path to a mini wizard mode, to something interesting in a moment. I really tried to focus that on this game. And the thing that really made it possible was we intentionally released the code very, very immature.
Okay.
Because usually, like every time I work with Rick, we try to at least get to 0.85 or something at release and try to get most of the stuff in there. I think the problem with that is then you get zero feedback. Stuff's in a game and it's just going to be time consuming to go back and change it, modify it, whatever. So it's like none of the mini wizard mode rules were written, at launch. The power-ups didn't do anything because, frankly, I hadn't figured out what they're going to do yet. It just, hey, I know I want to have power-ups in here. I'll revisit it later after, I see people playing the game. I see people streaming the game. It's like, oh, what does this game need? And then I'll, fill in, the rest of the idea in my head at that point. And Godzilla was really the first game that we did that on, where I was actually looking at feedback, watching streams, taking notes, and it's like, oh, there's like a little dead spot here. Let's add this saucer attack multi-ball, stuff like that.
Yeah, which it's paying off really well. And I mean, you say that like, oh, we'll just add this, but I also know the way your mind works and the tournament players that are out there. The last thing you want to do is put something in the mode that's overpowered or like, okay, never mind. People are going to completely ignore 85% of the game now and only focus on this 15 because that's where all the points are. That's the safest route. So that balancing act, every time you add something new, I'm assuming you have to completely see how that fits into everything else to make sure you're not breaking it, or yeah, creating a path that you don't want people to focus on.
Yeah, I think a lot of '90s games broke people's brains where you want to do multi-ball because that's also where all the points are. And I
Hmm.
think that was a huge mistake. One that hopefully you're not going to find in my games. Actually, Lyman and I used to talk about that all the time
Hmm.
because I helped him with a lot of Walking Dead stuff, and he was just like, these multi-ball, because originally he had the two multi-balls stacking together, the well and the prison, and I was talking to him, and I was like, well, this is all I do.
Yeah.
Just try to stack these two and then bring in Bloodbath. And it was just like, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to have you stack these two. And a lot of my games you can't stack.
Hmm.
That's for that reason. And the other thing is, if you make the multi-ball worth a ton of points, easily, then that's all you're going to do.
Yeah.
Um, and so to me, it's like, I think the secret spot is have multi-ball where you can, achieve a lot of points, but you have to, set it up. You have to play it really well. And that's kind of like Godzilla multi-ball. If you just bash a few shots, get a super jackpot, it's not going to do a whole lot to your score. But if you get through it a few times, if you bring in Rodan and all of a sudden, oh, I just got
Yeah.
400 million. So there's a special sweet spot with the scoring balances, and sometimes it's hard to find, but that's one of the advantages of having guys like Ray, myself. Um, we also have Dave Heggie, a really good player who worked for us, and these guys just like, hey, I can shoot this all day, and I was like, yeah, okay, definitely need to fix that. And
Yeah.
watching Carl
Yeah.
stream, that's another one. He's like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna sit there and do destruction jackpots all day and use my heat ray over and over. So he's like, okay, so now I have to have a heat ray cooldown, and I got to modify the destruction jackpots a bit. So
Yeah, and I saw that, or I saw the level of this game really show itself when I was at Texas Pinball Festival, and when I was there was a tournament going on, and Travis, one of my co-hosts on Triple Drain, he was still playing, and I was watching him, and he was playing Godzilla at the time, so I'm in the other room watching the projector and listening to people talk, and they're like, okay, he needs like 200 million. Where's he going to get this as ball three? And just listening to people talk about potential strategies of like, well, he could do this and this and this. And somebody said, they're like, well, he's close to Rodin. If he gets this, he can get Rodin. He can start. I forget the one where the battle goes, the guy comes in and out, or no, it wasn't that.
Megalon.
It wasn't Megalon. I think it was the Titanosaurus, because it was just like hit 5 targets real quick. But it's like, if he does all this, he skimmed a target on the way. It's like everybody's throwing out these different theories. And when you compare that to another game like Taxi that was being played at the same time, they're like, oh yeah, they're just going to lock for multi-ball and then do this. And just that complexity there of, it's there for the people that want it, but it also can be completely ignored for everybody else. And I don't know, that really stands out to me as that really connected once I saw that in that like high-end tournament kind of environment.
Yeah, see, that's the sweet spot. To be clear, I love Taxi
Oh
and
yeah.
high speed. Games where it's like, okay, do the thing. I love that, but do I want to play them over and over every day? No. They're fun to play one time, but yeah, the trick to the a successful home game is to have a varied and deep rule set, I think.
Yeah, and I know my dad. I actually went to we went to a pinball bar kind of area and played a whole bunch of games. And Godzilla was the game that stood out to him. He's not a great player at all. And I was like, I said, if you could take any of those pinball machines home and put it in your basement, which one would you take? And he said Godzilla. And I said, why is that? He goes, I don't know what I was doing, but every shot I hit made me feel like I was doing something, like he was achieving something. And I think a big part of that is the choreography of the light show, the sound that you've brought into it, different shots. And then obviously the whole game is about destruction. So it's just like you feel like you don't know what you're fighting, you don't know what you're destroying, but every shot that you hit, it feels like you're destroying or fighting something. And that impressed me, that you can have a Carl D'Angelo level player that loves Godzilla, and then my dad on the other end that also loved Godzilla. So I don't. Yeah.
the biggest selling point to me was Rick Nagel, the programmer. His dad bought a Godzilla LE.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's like, he doesn't own games, but he liked it so much he bought one. I was like,
That's
wow, I
awesome.
guess we hit the mark.
So leading that, I mean, you've now made a few games, and every game's been great. Every game is well loved. But Godzilla, it just seems like you've learned a lot from your previous games, and you tried something new, like you said, turning your brain off and giving something accessible for new players. Is this a mentality that you plan on carrying through into some of your next games, or is this like, you know what, I want to shift for the next one and do something more, I don't know, that's going to be more challenging, like a Jurassic Park, somewhat more linear path. I don't know. Is this like a new design philosophy for you, or did this just happen to work really well for Godzilla?
The reason it works so well is because the licensure was so flexible. I mean, I'm sure it's true with anyone's job. If someone's directing you how to do something, then sometimes your vision doesn't jive with that, and then you start making compromises. Whereas, games I've done in the past, I've set off on that path, but I wasn't able to continue it. So, um, like I said, when you were one with a licensor, and you're like, hey, I
Mm-hmm.
want to do this, and you're like, yeah, that sounds great. Or they'll say, well, how about this? And you're like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. It's let me tell you, it's exhilarating. It's like, oh, okay, cool. These, really on board with everything I want to do. They're fine with it. And Godzilla is a great example because we were just petrified that we would have to take these Toho characters and make them just sound exactly like them. Like the Exilian. If you watch the movie, the Exilians are really boring.
Mm-hmm.
So when we did our initial read, we had them very boring. And it's like, wow, this is awful. And so we kind of redid them. We kind of spiced them up a little, added a little more personality to them, and they're just like, yeah, kick ass, And that was like, oh my god, thank you, because if the whole game was just sterile, guys
Yeah.
reading lines, it was going to be tough. But um, we got the freedom to do it. Rick Zeef, our voice guy, he was super into it. He did all those voices, so yeah, it's a great time.
That's awesome. And I think it's actually shown, because some of the other games that are really like some of the other top 10 voted games, like I know right now Foo Fighters is really being well loved, and it sounds like the licensor of the band was really open to kind of, you do whatever, like have fun with that. And then Deadpool's another example. I know when I talked to George, he said him and Tanya were basically given like whatever you want to do. And that's, you look at Deadpool, and at one point, you're fighting Dracula on roller skates, and another point you're fighting a T-Rex. I mean, it really seems like, I think it sounds like when you or any designer is given a licenser that lets you run with it and have, I mean, yeah, that's got to be awesome. That's got to be a lot of fun
Yeah,
to have.
it is.
Well, how was then Bond's 60th? How was that? Did you like, I know that's a complete different type of game, a complete different situation you were put into. At least the stories that I've heard, you said it sounds like this was the game that the licensor actually wanted, was a more like an ode to the older system, a more simplistic game, at least. And it sounds like Gomez was able to talk him into something fancy, but they still wanted this kind of classic layout. And somehow you heard about it, or you're like, I'm in. How did that come about?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. I just remember that they were, talking about, hey, we have to make a Woe Nelly type, simpler score rail game,
Okay.
and they were kicking around some ideas like reskinning Quicksilver, reskinning Galaxy. But that would have required, because we don't have CAD files for those things, would have required, getting one, taking physical, just it would be a lot more effort than it was probably going to be worth. So I threw my hat in the ring. It's like, hey, if you guys wanted a layout for this, I'll do it. I have plenty of time. Because I had just finished designing the game that I got coming out next.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a little bit of a break before the coders jumped on board. So I took that on. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something, I actually streamed GNR the other night and was talking to Eric Minier. He was on the stream with me, and I kind of threw that out at him. I was like, as a designer, he's made some crazy games with crazy mechs and crazy ramps and all that. And I was like, if there was a situation where JJP gave you an opportunity to do a single level game, would you want to do it? And he's like, absolutely. So
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like, I think it's funny from the collector side. We look at that and they're like, why, this is basic. This is whatever. But from a designer standpoint, though, this presents you with completely different challenges than what you have with Cornerstone, right? I mean, making a creative layout.
So to me, the problem, I wouldn't say a problem, but I think one of the things that we've been like steered towards is every shot has a safe return back to the flipper.
Okay.
Um, I think that is something I'm trying to take back away a little bit, because to me that makes the game boring.
Mm-hmm.
If everything's a combo, everything flows together, the ball's never in danger. To me, that's kind of,
Yeah.
where's the challenge? Because when I play 8 Ball Deluxe, what's the challenge of that game? Well, you got to hit these 7 targets on the side. Oh, that sounds easy. Well, it's not, because you know what? You have to try to get the ball back under control. So that's kind of why I jumped at doing this Bond 60th layout, because all right, not every shot's going to come back control. We're going to have a bunch of drop targets. We're going to have spinners, the hat in the middle. Everything is going to be kind of flying back at you. I wanted to make a 2-flipper game, just kind of like a retro nod. Obviously, it plays a lot faster than a retro game, but
yeah.
But I wanted a game that almost every shot you take, the ball's going to be in danger. And I think that really adds to the one more game moment that I know people are experiencing with that. And, I did too. When I first brought that game home and we were testing the code, I just kept pressing start too, because it was just like, I was like, oh, how did I drain that? And you hit these online drops and, the ball drains. You hit the cap, the ball drains. You're just like, you really got to be on your toes at all times. And to me, that's part of the excitement of pinball, is getting the ball back under control. If I'm shooting this big old ramp and just waiting for it to come back to the flipper, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's fun for a while, but I don't want every shot to be like that. So, and I imparted some of that in Godzilla, putting that pop bumper in a weird spot, bashing the building, bashing the shield. I forced you to shoot, I forced Carl to shoot stuff he doesn't want to shoot. That's how I look at it.
Which is good. You should do that more. You should definitely making Carl uncomfortable, which, side note, he has a Bond 60th now, and I think you've seen the stream that he's already got into the wizard mode. I mean, that guy it's insane. It's insane what that guy can do. But hey, we love Carl. I've streamed Bond 60th, and I will tell you, first off, I'm super glad that you put co-op mode in the game, because this is one of the first games that I've played that I feel like I need co-op. Like, okay, this is going to beat me up, but I need you to be, we need to get beaten up together. Please. I need your help to get through this game deeper. And I will say, it's probably of all the games I've streamed, it's the one game I never want to stream by myself. Like, I want people to be there, because it is such an equalizer. It makes very competitive, games as short as they can feel, or let's go in with co-op and let's see how far we can go together. So, if that was your goal, you definitely crushed it. You definitely crushed it with that.
Well, I'll be honest here. Yeah, Mark Panacho put that in. So, shout out to him.
Well, thank you. And I saw the Jack Danger reveal stream, where you were there, and Gomez. You guys were playing it together, and all you guys genuinely looked like you're having a blast. Like, and I think that's that social type game, or that social environment game. This game does it really, really well. So yeah, and there's no like if you're playing Godzilla with friends, sometimes you're stuck standing there for 30 minutes, watching somebody just crush it.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, because I grew up in the arcade era. My friends and I would hang out and play pinball together, where it's like now, if I hang out with my pinball friends and we play Godzilla, we play, pretty much any modern game. It's just like, hey, I'm going to grab another beer. I'm going to stare at my phone for a while. Let me know when you're done. I mean, those games are great by yourself, but yeah, social wise, I think we've taken a huge step backwards, and hopefully some of these, these single level games will, bring some of those memories back and, bring people together.
So how do you beat that? Or like, how do you get away from that? Like, because if you make a game, you make a game like, John Borg made Turtles, and Turtles is just brutal. And it's like, you make this game that's hard and people hate it because they're like, oh, the game's too hard. But yet it makes it a fun game to play with other people, because it keeps the ball time down. So it's like, how do you balance that? Is there any way to, like, I don't know, make the game go faster, or more of a like a socially fun game to play without people just thinking it's just death brutal game? I mean, I don't know.
No, hopefully you'll see in my next game. I have some ideas.
Okay. No,
we'll see how they work.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the at least games that I've found. Some of the harder games are the ones that last the longest in my collection, right? And I think that's the
Oh
same
yeah,
for most. But at the same time, you do want to have games that are approachable for your friends and family that come over,
yeah.
and they actually want to feel like they can do something besides just immediately drain.
I mean, you hit the nail on your head when you said that your wife never plays pinball, but she wants to play the challenge mode on Godzilla. It's like,
Yes,
there
yes.
you go.
So let's go into that. King of Monsters. That game. So this is a challenge mode that came with the exclusive topper. So we'll start there. The exclusive topper. As a game designer, let's clear this up because some people say they think Joe Schmo at Stern is in charge of designing all the accessories. That's not true. Like you as a game designer lead, this is like that topper is just as much part of the game for you to design as the rest of the game, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Basically, what we do is, we throw out a few concepts, and then either as a team or or the licensor will just choose. Like, there's a rare instance, like an Iron Maiden, we ended up with two toppers because the licensor
nice.
couldn't choose. So he's like, they said do both. So yeah, we throw out a few ideas, and then we'll land on one.
So, did any of those ideas include fire, shooting fire at the player? Because that's what
Shoot.
everybody apparently was expecting was a freaking flamethrower
Oh man, I
or
could tell you the ideas I've had for my toppers that never came to fruition, but
a flamethrower was
it's
not one of them.
my flamethrower was not one of them. No.
No, maybe the next game. No, no. So I know when I saw the initial reveal, and I think honestly, the initial video that Stern put out wasn't the greatest. It wasn't the greatest video at showing what was actually in the topper. So I know reveal day comes out, and a lot of people just big old question mark of like, what did we just watch? As I don't know, like, how do you like? You're the creator of this. This is your baby. This is your brain. Like you've been obviously you and the team reveal, like how do you respond to that, or how do you sit there and see Pinside just go off? Like what is it, how does that feel, or how do you react to that? I don't know.
Oh, I mean, obviously it's not great, but at the same time, I'm watching this video saying, yeah, I don't know what this thing does watching that either.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, sure. Do I want this, animatronic Godzilla that comes down and starts choking you and throwing buildings at? Sure. But you know
Yeah.
what? I try to make most of the cool stuff on the play field, and I do what I can up top. It,
what was
sometimes
there
it's a give
any
and take.
was there any conversation about like affordability? And what I mean by that is like this game is so popular, you've sold so many Godzillas. Was there, like, I think you could have made a just absurdly expensive topper, with everything that it could do everything, but yet this is so well sold that I feel like you now just lost the majority of the people that own the game. Versus the other side, if you make something that's cheaper, then more people can get it because it's been sold more. An example of that would be like Elvira House of Horrors. That game is already a premium level game. It's an expensive level game. So I think that was the first topper that came out over $1,000. But it's like, okay, it's already an expensive game. This one I just seem, because it's so well loved. I don't know. Was there any discussion there on like price point of where this topper should fall based on collectability versus just the overall market, or you just designed something and price point came out where it came out?
This topper was designed in 2020,
Oh, okay.
well before
Way
the game
well
came
before.
out.
Yeah,
So no, that was never like, hey, we're going to sell 50,000 of these. Let's try to make an affordable. Yeah, it was none of that info was out at the time this was designed.
that's crazy. Because yeah, you get those trolls or whatever that they're like, well, maybe they designed a topper because they don't want to sell a ton of them because they don't want to make it. It's like, what are you? Who would do that? Like, I don't know. But I will say, I got the topper really quickly after it was released, and I'm super super grateful to you and Rick Nagel and George Gomez because you guys approved beta code and you guys gave me the ability to stream this. And what I think is really neat is Zach Minnie with Flip N Out made a good video, a good promo video showing it off well, and then our stream came out that showed long form how well it was integrated with the game. And it just kind of seemed like an overnight switch. All of a sudden, Pinside got a lot quieter about, and then people started getting them and building them up. And now we're in a position where nobody can buy it. Nobody can buy the topper. They're sold out everywhere. I don't know. That's like, how does that feel on your end? Or like, you're like, thank you. Now that you've actually seen, like for everybody else, it's like everybody that talked before they saw it. Now you've actually seen it. Maybe we can all take a deep breath, that kind of stuff.
I
Or
mean, the amount of work that Brett, our lamp effect guy put into the topper. I mean, you can see,
Hmm.
especially in a track mode, you're sitting there watching tanks shoot at Godzilla, and he's got all these little choreographed shows going on in there that you probably don't even notice while you're playing. But
Mm-mm.
there's a ton of stuff in there. So yeah, no, shout out to the software guys, the lamp guy, Rick Nagel, of course,
Yeah.
who slapped that mode together in like 2 weeks, because we kind of waited till the last minute to get that out, but we got it out just in time for the topper release.
Well, let's talk about that then. The mode itself, the King of Monsters Time Attack. Just to clarify, it is King of Monsters is a mode in the game. It is a
Mm-hmm.
mode in the game. But to get to that mode, what are the steps that you have to do to get to actually see that mode in the game?
You gotta see. You gotta visit Planet X, and then you gotta work your way through all the power ups. I think it's 11.
So
To
it is hard. Is
yes.
the answer. It is quite a journey and it's quite a ride to get to that mode. And I know I saw when the mode was added, Carl of course streamed and he got to it. I mean, why wouldn't he, right? And to
Mm-hmm.
see it's like, oh, that looks like a cool mode. But once again, from your view, like you've thought through this mode and then Rick's coded it for you guys to spend hours and hours and hours on a mode that you think 1% of people that play the game will ever see. That kind of sucks, right? I mean, how do you that
That's exactly how the Escape New Bar challenge came about because so when Rick's writing these modes, we have our little cheat menu. So we go into our cheat menu and start, Escape New Bar, yes.
Yep.
And this is when we're all in the office, so we'd all, stand around the game and, wow, this is really cool. This is, all this effort and work that nobody's going to see. And so
Mhm.
that's when we came up with the idea. Why don't we just make this a challenge mode? And then it kind of became like the office favorite. We would just play the challenge mode. So that was front and center when we were doing Godzilla. It was like, oh, we got to have we got some stuff like this in the game too.
Mhm. Now, is there any I would say some people are upset that it's locked behind the fact that you have to buy the topper. I don't know. I can see both sides of it, obviously. I'm grateful that I have the topper cuz I love the mode. Are there any other I don't know, are there any thoughts on that or is that I don't know if that's your call, whose call or is there
No,
anything
we
else you
have some
plan on
other
doing?
challenge modes planned, but that mode's exclusive to the topper. It's despite what people say, it's not getting released on IC, which makes no sense because Godzilla shipped with IC.
Yeah, yeah, who wouldn't get it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that the only reason that those other modes are unlocked because they didn't ship with IC. So
Okay. Awesome. Oh, that's great. No, I love it, and I hope Stern gets around to making a lot more, and I hope more people buy it. I will say I said this in Triple Drain that my wife has really enjoyed that mode, and there's something about I think it's an amazing training tool, not only for a novice player but also a player like myself, because in that mode you have to fight all four of the first level bad guys at the same time, monsters at the same time. And to be honest, Megalon is one that I almost never pick because it's a challenge. It's a really hard challenge for me. And so to force you to, instead of just ramping out with Geigen or, working on that stupid left spinner, man, that shot just it's so it feels good when you hit it, but man, does it feel like you just suck when you brick and brick and brick. But to get through that all and then to be rewarded with the speed at which you get through phase one is your reward for phase two. I don't know. I've loved it and I've it continues. I still haven't beaten it. I've been all the way to the point where I hit all my shots in the second phase and you have to hit the scoop. You have to hit the scoop to finish it. I didn't know
that
that. So I
that
like I started to celebrate early when I hit my last shot and I think it was 9 seconds to get the ball under control and hit the scoop and didn't happen. Did not
man,
happen.
got to
But hey,
practice your scoop shots, I guess.
I know I just need to practice all the shots. But even my wife was able to get through the first phase. She had like 15 seconds for the second phase, but I don't know. I think you did something right there, and I appreciate to have such a killer mode so deep in the game, but now give it a way for everybody else to accept, actually play it is fantastic.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, it's a modified version of what you get to in the game. So when you get into the game, it's not timed, so you drain, you're
That's it.
dead. Yeah. So this you're not under that pressure. You can just like you're just under the pressure of the clock.
Yeah, and it's great. It's great. You said the word modify, and I'm curious your thoughts here because this Godzilla has to be there are so many mods for this game. There are so many mods that people have made for this game. I mean, you can see even the speaker light kits that I have, the flaming burning building. As a designer, I don't know, what's your view on mods? These so many of these cosmetic mods. Stumbler has made his was voted Twippy. His the Tokyo neon sign over the scoop was the #1 mod last year. I know, what is it? Diddy something. He has crazy mods. I don't know your view. Like, what are your thoughts on mods? Do you have any that you plan on putting in your Godzilla, or I don't know? What are your views
No,
on any of that?
those Tokyo neon mods are really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, when I see it's like anything else, sometimes they're over the top, other times they're really cool.
Hmm.
Like the thing that goes on the roof that diverts the balls, I think is kind of dumb, but I designed it that way for a reason. But if you want it to go there, sure. But some of those, the neon ones, the UFO ones, the speakers, those are cool. Yeah, no, those are really cool. And I just saw one the other day where I think it was on the premium where the Godzilla's Atomic Fire was
For the
was
back
lighting up.
glass.
Yeah, that was really
Yeah.
cool too.
So Stumbler, that's his current UFO mod. It has 4 parts to it. So it's the UFO that changes and has its own interactive light show. The 2 posts, the 2 star posts down by your flipper, when the slings hit, those will actually light up differently. And then the 4th part is actually this LED strip that goes behind the breath, and you can connect that to like the spinner or something like that. And then he teamed up with another guy to do this Atomic Godzilla figure. I don't know. That was probably one of the first things you saw when people were getting Godzillas. They were taking the Stern figure out and putting, it's like now people are scouring eBay for these. I had no idea the Toho, Godzilla figure market was so prevalent and so expensive. Some of these figures are absurd how pricey they are.
Yeah. Yeah, we bought a bunch of figures when we were developing. We know they're expensive.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's really cool.
To be clear, my biggest thing when I play is I want to be able to see the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as the mods aren't like, blocking your view, then I generally don't have a problem with them.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, the figure that I used, my brother actually paints like minifigs for Warhammer. I actually got a new figure and he painted it and it looks awesome. But it had to have been the figure that you designed the game with, because the screw holes in the feet lined up perfectly. Like, it was insane how perfect it was to swap that out. So
which figure?
It was some 1954 classic something. I don't know. It was something that Pinside recommended, and it's about a half an inch taller than the one that's in there, and it fits perfectly. It's awesome.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Now imagine that. That's really cool. Well, I don't know. I could talk about Godzilla all day, and I think I know, because of how amazing this game is. I mean, it just seems like you're continuing to improve with that, and to see kind of your design philosophy or your code philosophy change. I don't know. I'm excited, just like everybody else, for your next game. See how that'll work. But yeah, Bond 60th. Well, what about that? That game was announced. It was rumored. It was talked about, and then it was announced. What what were your feelings on game day of that? Because some people saw it and are like, you got Bond fans out there that are like, holy cow, this is the first thing ever that has all 6 Bonds on, together in one item. And then there are other people that are like, oh, I want to buy it for $8,000. I'm not going to pay. It's like, I don't. What's your feeling on reveal day on that?
I mean, of course, I want everything cheaper too. But you see, I never really dealt with the licensor at all, so I had no idea at the time that getting all 6 Bonds was something they like hardly ever did.
Mm-hmm.
So that was actually news to me. But I just remember people saying, "Well, that topper's awesome." And when the first time I saw it in person, I was like, "Wow, this is pretty cool." George designed it, so I had never seen it until like we streamed it.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Wow, that is pretty cool."
Yeah,
there was, yeah. I mean, I get why people were scoffing at the price, but I did my job. I was like, "Hey, here's a fun game. I think you'll like it." Maybe not everyone can afford it. Maybe you're not going to see them on location, but hopefully everyone will get to play it someday, somewhere.
Yeah, no, that was a surprise to me when Zach brought that for me to stream. And man, it felt weird having a game that expensive in my house. Like, my wife was like, wait, what? Like, we have small kids. We're like, nobody go near it, that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you, we had a blast playing it. And yeah, just looking at this layout here, I know I know last time we talked about Godzilla and we kind of went around the play field and broke down design. You had said you knew early on you wanted some sort of building mech, and so you just kind of were like, boom, right there. There's going to be a building mech, and then you had also mentioned that the Magna Grab originally that was supposed to be an Avengers, so you kind of came in knowing I'm bringing this mech into that. So I think you kind of had said you kind of threw those down on the whitewood, and then you started designing around that. With this, where'd you start? Was there any particular shot you started with? Any particular mech that you sat down first, or what was your initial design process?
I started with the figure eight loop.
Okay.
It's basically a modified version of something I designed for another game. Um, it, it ended up being a lot bigger than I wanted, but I think that worked out because it's very smooth. So I really like how that shot came out. After that, I wanted kind of a two pop bumper. I was going for more kind of a centaur upper playfield where it's got two pops shoved way at the top with a target bank in front of it. I kind of always liked that. So that's what I was kind of going for up there. And then everything else just kind of filled in around it. Originally, we didn't have a display in the playfield, so it was a lot more open than what we ended up with.
Yeah, and I actually really enjoyed the display. At first, I was like, "Why are they doing that?" And people with the initial review, people are like, "What are they going to do? Put movie clips down there or whatnot?" And I will tell you, the code. It's actually no. It's very simple. It's very simple. Block letters, and that game is so fast and it's so hard to get under control. To have something visual right there for you to quickly see what you need to hit. I came away from it like, this is awesome. This is a display like this, bringing this into other games. I don't know. Is this a unique thing for Stern? Do you think there's any chance we'll see something like that again in the future? Because I actually really liked having that there.
I mean, it's basically the Star Wars auxiliary display, but under the playfield. But yeah, you're right. I actually liked it a lot more than I thought I would too.
Mm-hmm.
We had to put it in there both for the service menus and IC. So to be clear, it was never going to show movie clips, nor could you, because of that viewing angle is so extreme. It's going to look kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
But the way we had it, the way Mark is using it, I think is very effective. Like, you can just see, you can see your timer without having to like look up,
Mm-hmm.
you can see everything you need to see.
100%.
And I think it's very cool.
Yeah, I found myself almost never looking up at the back box because, one, I knew my score was going to be low, so why even look? But two, it just to have it communicate exactly what you need to do or where you're at. I don't know, incredibly effective tool. What else? I know the jackpot shot, that captive ball was such a. It makes me feel like the what is it? The smart missile shot on Jurassic Park, similar spot, but you really got to thread that back there to cash it out, and you made it timed, so it's just that was I only hit it I think once or twice, and it felt great when I did, but that was one of those that was brutal.
I just wanted a long narrow shot somewhere, so. It was my intention that would be the hardest shot in a game, but I think actually the M target is. But I'm happy. I'm happy with how that shot turned out because even when it's not lit, it makes this cool sound. You're just like,
mm-hmm.
Oh, I made that shot, awesome. Well, I didn't want to, but it's still cool,
Yeah, because that's the extra ball shot as well. And then I knew having the gadget where you can hit the button and drop the inlines, like. It's not a hit the button and just give yourself a multi-ball. It's okay, let me help you out and get you a little closer. And that once those are dropped though, backhanding that from the right flipper was near impossible for me. I couldn't. It's a dangerous shot coming from the left flipper. Yeah, that multi-ball in that game is a multi-ball I feel I earned. It's not given to you. You earn it.
Everything in that game is supposed to be dangerous. I mean, you're a spy. Come on. Everything's dangerous. So that was my approach. It's like I didn't want to, all right, now I'm going to shoot a shot and just sit here safely. Because even if you shoot it up into the rollovers, into the pops, it's very draining out of both sides. So
yeah, that's a great game. And I know the hat, I actually really enjoyed the hat in the middle, the way it spins, the way it resets itself. I know that was something with Avengers. There were times where the post was like,
that's what brought that about.
Yeah. And a tarot, it's like I can't do it. That the post is like perfectly at 12 o'clock, and it's like I can't spin it. Like I need, come on. Like,
I know. That was my regret of the Avengers spinner. So I made sure. So this is actually a different assembly. We use what's called thrust bearings, which, like, if you have a fidget spinner,
Hmm.
that's what those use. So they spin forever. So we stuck those in there and added, a big counterweight to, compensate for this weight. We had to use the thrust bearings, but it spins fairly well, but almost always returns to like the 3-4 o'clock position.
Nice.
So it's kind of, it's mostly out of your way, and it's in a spot where you can drill it from either flipper.
Yeah, and it worked. It was consistent, and that was the thing, to have a mech like that in front of the MI6 targets, which you're trying to hit, but yet the way it puts itself, I don't know, whatever you guys did to make that work, it works really well. I don't know how many people are going to have spinners in any games coming forward, but hopefully they use a mech like that, because, and I'm glad, I like that it's only one post, because even though it's a big mech, it's only one kind of little thing that's in your way, compared to like a double post spinner or something like that.
Yeah, I
But
saw a lot of people's feedback. Oh, I'm so sick of spinning discs. And I was like, try
try
it at
this one.
least.
Yeah.
I mean, if you hate it, fine, but at least I've tried something different with it. It's, it's going to reset in a nice position. It spins for days if you hit it right.
Yeah.
And it's got a sculpt on it, which is actually pretty hard to do.
Yeah, it really is awesome. And you said spin for days. I will say the first time that I actually got the 5 spinner combo on that is such a great feeling. And the fact that the geometry is laid out in a way that it can do that, and the opto spinners, and they just spin and spin and spin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think I'm 4 spinners. I think you should probably just make that a minimum for your games moving forward. Just 4 spinners at least here on out, because I don't know anybody that complains. There's a lot of mechs that they're like, I'm sick of this or I'm sick of that. I don't think anybody's ever complained about too many spinners.
Yeah. Well, I originally had 3 on there, the top left, the middle, and the right. And then when I was playing it, I was just like, I think I can put a 4 spinner down here in the bottom left.
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Yeah, why not? And then obviously everything's drops. I mean, you've got so many drop targets in there. And another thing that, the only thing that people complain about at drops are that it slows down the game compared to a stand-up target. But
I don't know.
I don't agree with that.
I mean, there's something about shooting a drop target. It's much more satisfying than shooting a stand-up. If they're off on the side or whatever, sure, stand-ups will fine. But
mm-hmm.
if I put 3 stand-ups in the middle there, that would be just a death factory of air balls coming out of there. So I don't think people would actually want that. But
no,
go ahead and retrofit your Bond 60 with stand-up targets and get back to it.
No, I'm good with that. Is there any mech that, if you had the ability to snap your fingers and you could make that mech cost half of what it currently costs, that way you could fit it into games more or use it? I don't know. Like, it seems like a lot of people worry about the bomb. They did a stand-up target because they couldn't afford the. I don't know. Is there any mech like that you feel, I wish this was cheaper so that I could use it more?
Oh yeah, that's a toss-up between drop targets and magnets. Believe it or not.
Magnets. Okay. Yeah. I'm enjoying that. The Magna Core, man, the Magna Grab in Godzilla. Maybe this is a quick question. What I read on Pinside, when they see that the actual core, the Magna Grab core, and they see actual marks on it from the ball, is that anything? I mean, there are people that are like buying backups. Is that of the Magna Core? They're like, well, this breaks, and is there any way that thing's gonna break? I mean, I don't know. You guys, I know Stern, you guys do crazy testing on stuff like that.
No, so that core is actually non-magnetic. So that's why it's a little softer, but it's non-magnetic. We've tested those things for forever because, like I said, it was originally on AIQ. So those have been through the ringer. I mean, if it looks ugly because it's got these little marks on it, then by all means buy a spare, but it's not going to break.
That mech is so unique, and when anybody plays that, and the fact that when that ball comes out and it whips around again, it just, I don't know, it's such a cool mech. Is that do you think that's a mech you'd ever pull back out and use somewhere else, or do you think that's a Godzilla exclusive?
No, it's a mech that I actually, sometimes I'm bored, I'll just design mechs, and I actually had it doing something really cool before we even tried putting it on Avengers, and I might revisit that someday.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. What else do I got for you? Foo Fighters. Jack actually seemed to kind of, it's still an Italian bottom, right? But he messed with it a little bit, adding in those little targets. Do you think there's I know Stern. I don't know if this is company policy or whatnot, but keeping that consistent. I know you've done some interesting stuff where you've pulled the slings, the slings a little further away from the flippers, and that removes my post pass. But I like though the way it shoots. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on any plans on doing anything kind of crazy, or do you I don't know. What are your views on play on you know lower flippers that are more unique with scissor flippers or whatnot
Ooh, I
like
love
like
scissor
that?
flippers.
Yeah.
Yeah, my next game, non-symmetrical inlanes. One of them's quite different from the other. So, yeah, that's something. It's like even the Godfather there behind you. I think that's really cool what Eric did with
Hmm.
the ramp that feeds backwards into inlane. That's pretty cool.
And it's
So
fast the way
yeah,
it feeds it.
so
Yeah.
I mean, I am definitely. I think when I first started, we kind of had a path, but we also had three pop bumpers and a nest,
Yeah.
and finally I pleaded my case. I'm so sick of playing this exact same game. For Godzilla, just let me have one and get
Hmm.
it. Where it's actually creates havoc and danger rather than just nestled up at the top of the game. And they gave me the green light on that, so I think I think I can get a green light for changing the bottom too.
That's exciting. That's exciting because it's and Jack took it one step further with no pops. Like somehow he found a way to squeak through. And I know they have the Kafoom target, which that's a really kind of impressive mech in Foo Fighters. Like it's cool what that does. So it still gives that feeling of randomness, like you don't know when or danger. Um, but yeah, I've when you only have one pop bumper, it actually feels like it's a dangerous mech. It's not just a time saver,
Yeah,
right?
so here's the
So.
thing. I don't hate pop bumpers, but
Mhm.
when they're all nestled together with a single entrance and single exit, and you're just waiting 5 minutes for them to come out of there, that just drives me nuts. So
Yeah, that
um, you'll
that
never see
was
that in one of my games ever. It's so, I think that the closest you'll probably get is Jurassic Park, and that's because I needed that setup shot to, the single exit.
sure. Yeah, that was probably one of my bigger frustrations when I had Toy Story. There's four pop bumpers up there at the top, and man, you can hit the ball back, and you're like, it's either going to go to the left and fall in the Buzz Lightyear scoop, and then which will spit it right back into the pops, or it's going to feed out to the right and actually feed my upper flipper. So, no, I agree. I think I think that's the right move. Um, what else? You're like the overall Stern team is so strong, and you guys kind of break up into your little units, or like it was Jack and Tanyo, and then Ray Day's part of that. But I know Tim and Ray have done stuff. I know Dwight and Eddie are teamed up right now. How does that? What's the overall team dynamic there? I mean, is it competitive at all? Is it um, do you guys work together or run things by each other of like showing your guys games off or sharing? I don't know. And I know you like work from home now. So how does that team, because I know George talks about the studio that he's created. How does that work, or how does that feel at Stern?
It depends on the team. Like Dwight's really, hey, come into my office and tell me what you think.
Hmm.
He's really good about that. Um, Certain extern designers were actually known to get really mad if you played their games.
Hmm.
Not mentioning names,
Yeah. Yeah.
but he works for the competitors now. But yeah, he was really bad. But yeah, usually we'll flip it. Like I was shooting Foo Fighters a long time ago, and I gave Jack some suggestions to help add some more bounce to his games. So he did that. So it's things like that actually we help each other out. And because when I first started, Borg helped me out a lot. He kind of just like, oh yeah, here's my CAD library. Here's these ideas I have, and here's some mechs I made that I didn't use. Feel free to like borrow them and whatever. So um, it's it was really intimidating walking into that building,
Hmm.
because we had John Trudeau, Steve Ritchie, and John Borg. So these guys are all like industry veterans who are all kind of looking down on me, and so it was a little intimidating. But he kind of took me under his wing, and he kind of helped me out. And he's a great guy, and I really appreciate that he did that for me.
Yeah. You said walking into the building. I know one thing that has been cool, Dead Flipper Jack Dangers posted some stuff on Facebook where it seems like somebody sent him into some back room and he's just been cleaning out and just showing pictures of old mechs, like mechs that people have designed for games or original mechs. I'm assuming that's just a treasure trove of cool stuff that has
Oh
been
yeah,
put in
he came
games.
down here and he's like, "Hey Keith, check it out!" And he had a Torpedo Alley hand drawn CAD file. I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite Data East games. It was like, "Wow, that's gold, man! Don't lose it." Yeah, no, because we were cleaning out the storage space at the building, and that's why he was just going nuts, grabbing stuff, taking pictures. It is, I mean, we could probably open a museum with that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think.
Is there do you know much about, I mean, the new building, the move's coming up pretty soon, right? I'm assuming you're ready to, are you driving the U-Haul? I mean, what's the what's the plan for that, or is there anything new with the new building that you're excited about?
I actually haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
I've seen pictures. Obviously, I'm excited because our old building was quote unquote old. So this building's much newer and a much nicer amenity. So that'll be exciting. But actually, I haven't seen my office. I haven't seen anything other than pictures.
So you are
So
going to have an office there?
mhm.
Okay.
Well, we
Cuz
have to
yeah.
because we're so noisy.
Oh, yeah. That's cuz are you, yeah, how do you work from, like, how do you work from home? I know obviously you can work on a computer, you can work on CAD from home, but um
Yeah,
it's
I
not
mean,
like you
I
have
don't
a
exclusively work from home. I go in, usually once or twice a week because I don't really feel like drilling holes in whitewoods here. So,
Mhm.
once I'll bring a playfield home and then I'll work with the programmers. But otherwise, like if I'm making changes or experimenting with things, I do that at the office.
Cool.
So it's noisy. So yeah, we need an office.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Your games are currently, I think every game that you've made is still, well, not Bond 60th, but still in production. What is that? I think it's cool that people are kind of discovering Iron Maiden right now for the first time. And that was your first game, because now they're out there and available. I don't know. What's that like? What's that like? Because I know you do browse social media and whatnot, and seeing people kind of finally, like, I thought I missed out on this and now I finally got one. I don't know. How's that feel, still having every single game available and accessible for people to buy and play?
Iron Maiden, it was. I won't lie. I hadn't heard Iron Maiden's music in probably 30 years when I took that project. I was like, wow, I mean, I haven't heard this stuff since I was a kid. And, I just remember, everyone had the Iron Maiden shirts. And I was like, wow, I really know nothing about this project. I know nothing about this band. So I really had to do my homework. And the crazy thing is that yeah, I think, domestically they're, yeah, they're cool. I like them. But man, when I was just in Germany for the IFPA tournament and I had so many German pinball collectors come up to me with Iron Maiden merchandise. Oh,
Huh.
sign this flyer,
Yeah.
sign me. Oh, I signed like maybe one Godzilla thing and maybe 40 Iron Maiden
Yeah.
translates and flyers. And it's just like, wow, this band is just, they're like gods here. So it was just crazy because I had really no idea how big they were around the world.
Hmm.
And yeah, because I just think about, the little US bubble here where, yeah, like, yeah, they're cool, whatever. But man, like everyone overseas is, oh, that's my favorite band. And oh, it's my favorite game. And I was like, oh, awesome.
Well, that's great.
Because
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I
they're,
had no idea what I was doing when I designed that. And it was, it was, it was interesting.
well, it sounds like, I mean, the foundation, you've said this before, the foundation, the main build of that game was Archer, your homebrew, and then you were able to tweak it in a way to make it play for a Stern cabinet, or fit in a Stern cabinet, and then tweak it anymore to be more, Iron Maiden specific. But the code in that game is really well liked. The art package, I mean, Zombie Eddie crushed that again. He's done, no, Jurassic Park was the only one, because he's done every other one of your games, right? Well, not Bond 60th
Not
either.
Bond
That was
60th.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's
Um,
quite a combo.
yeah. No, no. He's a great guy. I love working with him.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's, oh, tournament. You mentioned going over to Europe. I mean, some people, like, you're an incredibly great tournament player. You've been an incredibly great tournament player for many, 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 many years. What are your thoughts on, like, current tournament play? Do you feel like how has it changed? Now that these games are getting more complex, like, do you feel, I don't know, like, in the world of, being good from an EM all the way to one of the modern games, that skill level is so big now with completely different games. I don't know, from you, what are your thoughts on tournament playing? Because I know you're not traveling nearly as much as you used to, but you still play in some of these bigger ones. I don't know. Overall thoughts on just tournament play right now or the tournament community?
I think one of the reasons I don't play anymore, it seems like everything's been adapted towards maximum whoppers, and to me, that it kind of sucks a bit of the fun out of it when you don't really have a final. You're just like playing all night, and the first person to 10, avoiding 10 strikes or whatever. To me, those tournaments are boring, and
Okay.
if you're just cramming a bunch of pinball down my throat, it's not going to be as fun. Whereas it's a structured tournament. Okay, here is qualifying. Here are finals. These are exactly the number of games you're going to be playing in finals. Be here at this time. That's why Pinburg was so awesome. You're just following the structure. You're going to play 4 games. You're going to take a break for an hour. You're going to play 4 games. You're taking a break. Then you're going to go up on the stage. You're going to play 3 rounds of 4 games, and those are my favorite tournaments. Like Indisc is still kind of like that. It's very structured, and it's hard that. I don't want to make excuses, but I really haven't bothered to learn rule sets for most modern games. It's just I haven't been playing as much, so I haven't been as motivated to learn. And like I went and played Foo Fighters last night, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was having fun, but I had no idea what was, how to score points. It's one of those things I just don't really value anymore. But like the IPA tournament, we knew exactly what games we were playing, so I could read up beforehand. But yeah, every new rule set you learn, another one goes out the brain.
Yep.
So it's tough. And the IFA tournament that I just got back from, that's awesome tournament because you're just head to head. You and your opponent picking games, and there's skill to picking games. Something you're good on, something they're bad on. Those are the kind of tournaments that I love. I still love playing in those today. But if it's one of these woodshop tournaments where you're just pumping and dumping and try to get to the finals, and then the finals happen, they just kind of shove you through the door. It's just not as fun for me anymore.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I get involved in tournament conversation just because once again, Triple Drain with Tom and Travis and hearing about it, it's in the different formats. It's very clear. Some people really like some formats, some people really don't like the others. That's a hard balance. I think we all agreed. What was it that Josh has changed the new Whopper points specifically to screw over Tom Graff? I think that was the goal. I think he even admitted it. But no, I don't know. I find it fascinating, but I know it's not something I participate in. And to see somebody like yourself that you hop into certain tournaments and you always do well. You clearly have skill. But yeah, modern rules are insane. I mean, I know like Godfather. Like I'm still trying to just digest this game, and I love that they, if this is focused entirely for the home market, that they're giving you a game that will take you years to explore. That's really cool, but I also know that really turns off another demographic of people that just want to step up and play a game. And we talked about that on Triple Drain, that somehow Godzilla has found a good balance there, and hopefully I don't know. I'm excited to see you carry that, however that magic formula that you've figured out, hopefully to carry that into the next game.
I think I have, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned earlier that you said the next game was fully designed from your end before Bond. So that thing's just sitting there. I'm assuming it's being programmed right now,
yes,
getting ready to go. So you are currently in the design phase of your next title. Is that right?
Yeah.
Which are you
kind of the CAD phase?
Okay, CAD phase of that. Was there anything, any older game that you've played recently that stirred up some inspiration for you of like cool layout or cool? Because I know when we talked about Godzilla, there was that shot over on the right, and you had the tail whip shot,
deadly whipping.
Yeah, and
no, but you know what? It's funny you mentioned that because every time I do go to like a show or a tournament, I play all these games. Like some games I haven't seen in years, other games that I've never seen. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's a pretty cool idea. You start getting thoughts in your head. I haven't had one of those in a while, but I did have this. I think is a really cool ramp idea that I'm trying to get working. So
okay,
it'll be different than anything that I've seen.
Awesome. No,
and it was slightly based on something I saw at Indisc, so we'll see how that goes.
Spring. Now everybody's gonna look at what games did Keith play at a disc.
No, I
What's
saw
going
it
on?
in
Yeah.
disc.
Oh, saw it in disc. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, that's basically all I have. Is there anything particular that you want to talk about, or I don't know. I know this has been an interesting year for you because now that Stern is just doing 2 games a year, basically, it's we knew coming into 2023, it's like, well, Jack's game's going to come out, and then Brian Eddy's going to come out, so everybody's kind of waiting to see what's rumors are into the year for you. And I know some people are already saving up money, in Elwin we trust, that kind of thing. I don't know how is this year for you. Is it
It's
uh,
actually not. I won't lie. I like being busy, but
mhm,
it's been nice. It's been nice to reset my brain because I can design playfields all day long. I did
mhm,
it with Bond 60th. I told George, hey, I'll design this playfield, but I want nothing to do with the rules because designing rules is way harder than, unless you're actually a rule designer, that's way harder than you probably imagine.
mhm,
Um, it's just so many collisions, and you got to figure out so many, how does this interact with this? And it is mind numbing. Uh, it's just not something that I can just do all the time.
mhm.
So I really appreciated kind of this break for not just me, but like Rick, who's just been like seemingly behind on every project because it's always on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. He never gets to finish the previous. So it's been kind of a nice, I wouldn't say it's a year off because I'm definitely working,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's nice not having this. Got to have all these rules written at this time and have them ready to submit, and it hasn't been that way. So it's been awesome.
Because our rules is that process of you think of an idea, and then do you run the idea past the licensor before you code it, or you have to start coding it to then demo it? I mean, what's the
No, licensors don't care about rules. They
oh
care about assets. So we would have to show how we would use the assets, but as far as the actual rules, they generally don't care. It's it's like try writing a fun mode in your head, and then say, okay, well, how's this going to interact with anything else that's running? And then
mm,
you're like, oh, yeah, there's like a collision of lamps here. We can't do that, and it's it's kind of taxing. I know some people might be surprised to hear it, but it's way easier to design a playfield than it is a rule set.
yeah, no, I think that makes sense, and I know you're not the guy that's actually coding it, so
No,
that probably I'm assuming you've had thoughts that you've thrown at Rick, and Rick's like, "That's not
yeah.
possible," or like that
Well,
won't. Yeah.
Rick's awesome. He usually finds a way, but sometimes he'll say, I don't know if that's possible." But usually, 99% of the time when I say, like the whole Escape Nublar thing, because we had never done like a 3-ball mini game
Hmm.
within a game. So he was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So he looked at it for a while. He looked at the code and he's like, okay, I think I can do this. So that's an example of like, I have an idea. Before I take it too far, I'll have to pitch it to Rick. Is this possible? And then I get an answer.
Yeah. No, that's great. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's to come because I know Godzilla is pretty much done. You said you have some more ideas, or you had said more challenge modes potentially in the future. So, yeah, I if this was done, if you said that this was done, all wrapped up in a bow, I'm a happy camper. But if there's more to come, why not? Like that sounds awesome. And I know IC has kind of brought some new things for some of your older games, like new challenges or whatnot for people to play, and that's awesome that they're available. People can buy Iron Maiden right now. People can buy Jurassic Park; they're readily available. Um, that's exciting. Godzilla, obviously, some people are getting those in stock. So yeah, there's a lot of fun Keith Elwin pinball out there right now. So thank you for that.
Hey, we're a team, man. Come on.
Yeah, oh yeah, Keith Elwin team,
Harrison
Keith, Rick,
Drake, Rick
Harrison, yeah,
Nagel,
everybody. Yeah,
Zombie Yeti. Yep.
you've got a good thing going. You've got a good thing going. But no, we're excited. I know there's nothing. It's a big question mark, but apparently, we're hoping into the year. We're hoping to see what's coming out next with you. But I knew I wanted to catch up and just kind of talk about some of the new stuff that you added in Godzilla, and then go over Bond 60th. And just that was a fun game. It was a really fun game that I've had, and I really hope more people have a chance to play it.
I
But
still, whenever I have like, I got 15 minutes to kill, I'm going to play Bond 60th. So
yeah, is
yeah,
that in
it's fun.
your apartment? You have one there?
Yeah, I still have the photo shoot game here.
So what else? What else is in the apartment that you can play?
I have my photo shoot Godzilla game. I have a Walking Dead. I have Jurassic Park. and then I have Frontier.
Frontier. Forgot that Frontier is like, you're a fan. You're a fan of that. Man.
That's the game that got me hooked, man. So yeah, it's never gonna sell it.
Never gonna sell it. That's awesome. Awesome. Well, cool. Well, thanks again. Thanks again for doing this. I really appreciate that. This should be, hopefully people enjoy the conversation. It was good catching up with you. And I
You
know
too.
hopefully you'll be at what is it, Expo in October.
Oh, definitely, I'll be there.
Yeah, it'll be good. And I know you have a Triple Drain shirt, so I'm glad you're a fan of that podcast as well. But yeah,
I just like that you guys make fun of Travis. So that's all
really
I tune in
easy.
for.
It's very easy to do. It's very easy to do. But hey, once again, thank you, Keith. And yeah, we'll have to catch up again soon.
All right, sounds good.
All right, see ya.